Welcome to today's webinar, and I'm so excited to talk to you today. We have a great panelist here, Dan Warburton, and our topic is 3 secrets for the law firm owner to supercharge profits while reducing their workload. And I think the topic here, Dan, is one that law firms do not really embrace very well, and that is leverage, working on your business rather than in it, and creating a vehicle, an entity that can get you the desired increased profit and cash flow while working smarter but not harder. So
absolutely, yes. That's exactly it.
So advance the slide one more time. I'm John Scott. I'm your facilitator today. I am a VCFO for law firms at Summit VCFO Services by Anders, and I'm going to go through a couple of housekeeping items on the next slide. We're not on Zoom, we're on Teams today, but if you have a question, please hit it in the Q&A and we will try and address it along the way, or we can do some at the end. And then we will also have the slides available by email. If you want those, we will send those out within a couple of days after the session. And I want to spend just a couple of moments talking about the origin story of Summit and Anders. So 2 guys started in 2002, a CPA firm in Fort Wayne, Indiana. It was Adam and Jody, and they tried to do the traditional thing for a while, and they figured out that's not really what they wanted to do, and they created this virtual CFO practice. And they also started having people in their office in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and they figured out that wasn't going to work either, so they went fully distributed, which means that they didn't have an office. Everyone works from their home across the country, and they serve clients very well. So they grew and grew and grew, and then we met them. And finally, in 2022, we decided to merge them into our firm. And I will tell you that prior to that, we had just gone through COVID, so we kind of had some exposure to working with people who weren't necessarily in our office, but meeting them and figuring out that they were able to do this successfully on a full-time basis really opened our eyes to, hey, we don't have to expand geographically by having a footprint in other cities, but we can expand geographically by having people in other cities. So this has been an eye-opening joining of the 2 firms. It's allowed us to recruit talent based on our needs, not necessarily based on where the talent is located. And so when they came to us, the big idea was to scale this service into different niches, and I'm heading up the law niche. And I'm really excited about this opportunity, and I'm really excited about today's topic. I want to introduce to you our presenter, Dan Warburton, and I'll let you introduce yourself, Dan.
Okay, so yes, this is me, and thanks so much for having me here. It's inspiring to be, sharing the screen with you, John, with everything you've accomplished and where you've got to now. It's an honor. So over to me. This is what we're covering today: the 3 law firm owner secrets to supercharge your profits whilst reducing your workload. And this is me, Dan Warburton, and all I eat, breathe, and sleep is in that one line there: increasing law firm owners' profit and reducing their workload. And what I'm going to be sharing with you today is my life's work and how I do this, but in a way where you can actually implement what I'm going to share with you today. So this is what we'll uncover: how to make requests that move your team members into highly effective action. So this is the first part. Why accountability is vital for law firm owners to achieve extraordinary success, and how acknowledging is high-level training and creates deep loyalty in your team members. So here in the UK, we have this website, which is the Bellwether Insights page. And what they do is they research and look into lots of law firms across the UK. And they came up with these statistics: the top 5 challenges facing small law firms as of the end of 2023. And so you can see here, the first one is attracting new business. 81% of the participants voted that was between very significant and quite significant challenge. Other one, keeping work practices and systems up to date. retaining current clients, continuing demands of compliance regulations, and cybersecurity. And when I saw this, I was a bit shocked, because here's a statement for you. Law firm owners are some of the most disciplined people in the world. Fair statement or not? It is, right? Because to become the owner of a law firm, it takes an incredible level of discipline to go through all the academic training, time as an associate, and then get all your billing hours up, and then finally make it as a partner, and then to be maintaining that position. It takes years. So it's a lot of discipline. So it's true. Yet why, with such discipline, which of these can they solve? Attracting new business. Can they solve that with such discipline? Of course they could. Keeping working practices up to date, could they solve that with a discipline that law firm owners have? I would say so. Retaining current clients can't be that difficult. If a law firm owner applied themselves with all that discipline to solve that, could they solve it? Of course they could. Continuing demands for compliance regulations, absolutely. That's just a matter of research, finding out what's needed and finding the right people and implementing it. And cybersecurity, again, with such discipline, all of these could easily be solved by a law firm owner. So why are they still such challenges for so many law firms? With all this discipline, why are these challenges still stopping law firm owners succeeding or achieving the level of success that they could do? Well, it's simply this: because law firm owners are not available to solve them. That's all it is. If a law firm owner learns how to make themselves available as they run and lead their business to solve each of these problems, they're going to be able to not only solve these problems, but have lots of free time to go out there and do business development, marketing, recruiting, and really grow an extraordinary business. But what I've noticed is that they're in the law technician's valley of doom. And I see this time and time again. And all my clients that work with me, they were all in this, the law technician's valley of doom, which is where they built up a law firm where the firm is reliant upon them to have to keep doing billable work to stay in business. And then I was approached by a guy that looked, a gentleman, looked a lot like this, mid-50s, exhausted, burnt out, tired. He had 50 people in his law firm, and he couldn't go on holiday because he had to keep, he had to take his laptop with him on holiday and had to carry on working. His firm relied on him for the more commercially advanced legal work, and his clients kept requesting him to do it and no one else. So he was in this situation where even though he built up this firm, he had 50 people in it, he didn't have a life. He was exhausted, he was burnt out. And he was in a situation which is where, does he continue to burn himself out, work in such exhausting hours until the day he physically can't, and he was close to approaching it? Or does he walk away from a law firm that he spent years building and maybe be able to sell it with some kind of merger, but then still have to work as kind of a wind down sort of employment position for many more years to come? And he didn't want either of those, and he was exhausted and he was tired and didn't know what to do next. And I find this time and time again with law firm owners. So what I want you to get is this: the skill that enables a law firm owner to build a highly profitable law firm while reducing their workload is profitable delegation. This is, from my study now of over 10 years of law firm owners, the skill that increases their profits more than anything. Because once you learn how to do this, it's based on the simple maths. If you're the law firm owner, let's say you're charging $500 an hour, in that 1 hour, all you can do is earn $500 for your firm and not be able to do anything else. But let's say you had 10 other middleweights in your law firm, and they were being charged out at half the price, say $250 an hour, and you have 10 of them all complete 1 hour of work in that 1 hour, that's $2,500 being billed by your team. And even if you remove their wages, that's still over $2,000 comes in that 1 hour, while the law firm owner is completely free to focus on other things like business development, recruiting, marketing, and solving all those 5 other challenges that we've seen. And so in seeing this, I've devoted my life to showing law firm owners how to transition from being a technician to actually a law firm owner. And the skill that gets them there is profitable delegation. And that's what I specialize in.
So Dan, I
So
got a question for you.
go for it.
What is the impediment to law firms in leverage? If you look at accounting firms,
Yeah.
leverage is 9 or 10 to 1. And even some of the best law firms only have a leverage ratio of 3 to 1. So what are the roadblocks to getting this leverage? And I love your math, because if you think about it, if you were displaced from a Fortune 500 company or middle management, and you said, I'm going to go buy a franchise, a sandwich shop franchise or a McDonald's, you're really buying a job, which is what you had where you got displaced. But if you go and you buy 4 or 5 franchises and you hire competent people to run them, then you have that leverage that we're talking about here. If you can push down work and get others, train them up to do the work, then you can get more money and free up your time to do higher level things. So what are the roadblocks that you see?
Well, and that's a great question. And what I'm going to do is throughout this presentation, I'm going to be giving some case studies of the exact roadblocks that they were facing and how they overcame them. Yeah. Great question. So with profitable delegation comes profit and free time to solve attracting new business, keeping working practices alive, retaining current clients, and continuing demands of compliance and security. All of these can be solved with such discipline. But how did I arrive at this? The fact is I've never worked in a law firm, and I've never owned my own law firm. So how can I be showing law firm owners how to properly delegate away their workload? So here's my inspiration. My dad stuck at his desk again, and he's probably still sitting there now. And he was my inspiration because he showed me that the way that I can have unlimited earning potential is to be my own business owner and to have my own business on an entrepreneur. But I realized I didn't want to do it how my father had done it, because the whole business was reliant on him to have to keep doing the billing work. And so I went for it, completely opposite direction. Called myself Super Dan the Handyman, knocked on doors, and built up this great little client base, miniaturized all my tools, bought a retro 1980s motorbike that I drove around in, and I absolutely loved it. And the times were good, and I was free to choose the work that I wanted. And at the time, I was doing a lot of leadership and management training. And throughout this training, this is what I learned, that delegating effectively enables you to achieve great impact, profit, and free time. So I knew that was the way to go. So I was being the entrepreneur, but I realized I had to do this through other people, delegating it effectively. So I implemented what I was starting to learn on the programs. And by the following summer, I had Team Super, matching uniforms. We were renowned for integrity and good timekeeping. And the things seemed to be going well from here. But the truth was that nobody had taught me how to really properly manage people, how to manage performance, how to quality control work before it's released to clients or shown to clients in this case. And there I was. In the end, I lost everything, and I had to close the business down. And I ended up back to square one, except I owed over £100,000 in debt, which is about 120,000 US dollars. And so at this time, I was still undergoing a lot of management training and speaking to my coaches. Throughout more of this training, what I realized was that delegation only works when responsibility is transferred. So in other words, what I learned was that if the employees or the associates in your business don't feel responsible for the success of your business or your firm, like they don't feel like there's anything in it for them, they'll be doing what's known as quiet quitting, which is where they look like they're engaged, but actually secretly they're doing the bare minimum of hoping to get paid. And that's what I had happen. And the workmen were terrible. They were turning up late. They weren't doing work as reliably, or they couldn't do the work they said they could. So I ended up having to pay other workmen to go and repair the mistakes they made. But all of this stemmed from me realizing that they didn't feel responsible for my success or that of the business they were a member of. And so after that, I implemented all this knowledge, and I created this 24-hour emergency drainage and plumbing. There's still a video of me there. But through this, I learned implementing the management, the leadership I learned, but also in inspiring the team members to be part of building something great made all the difference. And it set me free. I was able to travel all over Europe, Spain, France, and I had a team of people that were carrying out the work, and all I had to do was answer the phone, text the details onto the leader of the men, and then he organized the men to deliver the work, and it was fantastic. And then people started to ask me, can you show me how you're doing this? And that's where I began my coaching business. And then bit by bit, word of mouth, I've now worked with over 1,000 entrepreneurs. And the best part is my father is now no longer at his desk. So by showing him what I learned, he basically delegated away his workload, so much so he was able to approach competitor companies, and he sold the business. But what made it possible was the fact that he delegated away his workload. So as you watch this, I want you to get that if you want to be able to build a law firm that you can one day sell for a decent amount of money, the main thing is it must not rely on you to be profitable. And that's what my father discovered. And then I wrote an Amazon bestseller, went to #1, and I've been invited to speak on stages all over the world about this and how to do this. And then I did this program, salesprocess.io, and they said, look at all the people that you've worked with that got the best results, because you can't work with anyone. And sure enough, law firm partners and owners got the best results. And it's because I discovered that what's missing is that leadership and management training that I've got years of background in. So that's what's got me here. I'm now trusted by several legal sector clients, mainly across the UK. The second one in from the top left, CAS, that's a USA law firm there. And now I've written this book, which is going to be released soon. And at the end, I'll let you know how you can find out about its release. So let's go for it. Three law firm owners' secrets to supercharge your profits whilst reducing your workload. How to make requests that move your team members into highly effective action. So clear requests. For effective results, clarity is vital. A clear request includes a measurable result. So when you ask somebody in your team to do something, the #1 thing is you need to be making sure that what you're asking of them is clear. Saying, can you go and make that client happy is not a clear request. It's not a measurable result. You need to say, can you answer this email, and can you email me a 10 bullet point report? So that's what exactly you want doing, but it's still not a clear request. Because let's say you need that at 4 p.m., but you haven't agreed on a time frame. At 4 p.m., you're wondering, did they hear me? Are they doing it? Are they not? So that's the second part, a time frame. So if every clear request you make must have a measurable result and a time frame by when you want something doing. If you have either of these missing, you haven't made a clear request, and you'll always be worrying whether your team members are actually doing what you've asked of them or not. And it might sound funny, but one of my clients really feared setting a time frame or agreeing a time frame, thinking he was then going to be micromanaging. So he avoided setting time, agreeing times, and it meant he was always worried and stressed, wondering if the work was actually being done in time for the firm to deliver it to the client. And finally has agreement. So you need to agree on who exactly is doing what within the request, because some request you might be requesting the requestee or the delegate to do part of it, but you might be doing another part of it as well. So you need to be really clear on exactly who's doing what as part of the request. And finally, no fluff. So if you say things like, John, I know you're busy and you've got a lot on, and I know you've got a lot on your plate, and we've had a long weekend and you've just come back from Vegas, but I was just wondering if all of that hesitating, all it's doing is it's breaking down the relationship of trust that I might have with a delegate possibly called John. And you see, because the thing that most people don't understand is that when you make a request, you're saying a lot more than just making a request. You're saying, I trust you. You're saying you're a valued team member to me. You're saying and communicating all these things and making a clear request of someone. And if you go and add lots of extra ums and ahs and worrying about what they're thinking, then your communication isn't clear and you'll end up feeling let down. So let me give you an example. This is that client, Cruz, Abram, Segal. This is Carlos. Came to me 2 years ago. He was working over 100 hours a week. He was completely exhausted. He was receiving over 250 text messages a day. And I thought he said 250 text messages a week. And when I said to him, he goes, no, that wasn't a week, that was a day. And it was from his team members wanting to know, where's that file? How do I do this? This client's called me, don't know what to do. Can't do this, can't do that. And it was just constant. And so when we looked at it, this is him, top left, and then top right, that's his partner, Jenna. That's his team that they had there. They had 8 others. And when we looked at it, everybody in his firm was reporting to him. So the first thing we did was we restructured it so that the juniors were reporting to the middleweights, and then only the middleweights reported to Carlos and Jenna. And then it looked like that. So then he had 6 people reporting to him. And one of the key things we implemented was weekly regular one-on-one calls with each of his 6 team members, or his senior and middleweight members. And in that weekly one-on-one call, what he could do was he could make those clear requests. He then had a list of all the things that were taking up his time. And then during that weekly call, he would look at it and he would choose, right, can you take this on for me? And I need you to do this by this time frame in this way. And then he got their agreement and then wrote it down. And then the next week he could hold them to account. How did they go? Did you do this? Did you do that? You didn't do this. And then he could offer them the support they needed to make sure they wouldn't keep repeating the same mistakes. And all this one-on-one time that he gave them, so that's 6 one-hour calls a week, it enabled him to delegate over 50% of his work away. And then the next stage was employing someone that could take over the work that he was doing that was still tying him down the most. And that's where he went out and recruited this guy called Jonathan. And because he was clear on exactly the work he wanted to have himself be replaced by, he was able to recruit really clearly exactly who he wanted and with what skills. And then as a result of that, he went from working over 100 hours per week to less than 50. So that was a huge relief for him, because for the first time in years, he had evenings with his family, weekends with his family. He could go on bike rides, loved going biking in the mountains and skiing. And he got his life back. It was wonderful to see. But the best thing was that his firm's profit went up. So we compared the last 6 months of 2021, the last 6 months of 2022, and there was an 89.15% change, which was an extra $707,000, 794, 7,700. Yeah, you get the figure there. That's in Great British pounds for those of you that are dialing in from England, if there's any of you here. But again, what made this possible was that he learned how to delegate his workload that was exhausting and tiring him down to his team members and have them complete it effectively and on time and be able to deliver it straight to the clients. And the way that he did that was through regular one-on-one calls and through making those clear requests I mentioned. So on to number 2, why accountability is vital for law firm leaders to achieve extraordinary success. So accountability, ensuring your team members succeed. Holding team members to account includes agreement on who is accountable. So if you have workflows throughout your firm and you're not sure on who exactly is supposed to be picking up and doing what to complete work, then those bits fall between the cracks. And then you can't hold any particular person to account on those. So you need to make sure that each bit of all of your workflows, there's somebody that's responsible for making sure that that bit gets done. Secondly, tracking requests and promises. So like we saw with Carlos, you need to be making requests and then tracking that they're being done and by when. And it's really difficult to manage this. Like, you're asking people to do all sorts of things everywhere. How do you track it all? What I found the easiest way is with a regular check-in. And weekly is brilliant. And the only thing that really I would say would change to that is that maybe you might have them just 15 minutes long for those that are already high performing, that only need a little touch point, versus others might require a full hour if you're trying to train them or get them up to a certain point where they can take over some of your more advanced work or work that requires more experience. Agreed and documented processes. If you don't have the processes documented in your firm, then what happens is each time something is done, it's done slightly differently each time. And that gives room for variables. It gives room for things to take so much longer. And you've basically got never-ending testing, but then without the learning. So if you can, once things start to half work okay, ask that delegate, can you write down a step-by-step procedure of how you do that? And what's great about that is if you look at McDonald's, is they employ like marijuana smoking teenagers that are pregnant, and they can just come and go, and that's the truth of it. And they come and go, and somehow your Big Mac arrives on your tray perfect every single time. Why is that? It's because they've got all their processes documented and being adhered to. So once you have this process, if you've got a problem with high staff turnover or people leaving, with documented procedures, they can straight away be slotted in and take over from where was left off with minimal training or disturbance to the workflow, and not ignoring anything that doesn't work. So this is the key thing. As a law firm owner and things don't work, it's really easy just to sweep things under the carpet, see somebody being late, see somebody not complete a certain form neatly, or saving files on the desktop instead of on your system, and allowing it to continue. And what happens is it's a bit like a little kink in the back wheel of a bicycle. It's okay when you're going at 5 miles per hour, but you try cycling down a mountain and doing 70 kilometers an hour with that kink in your back wheel, you're going to fall off. It's not going to work. So today, make a commitment to start not stepping over anything and use weekly, regular one-on-one calls to bring those things up with that individual. Then that way, you don't have to worry about hunting down that individual, trying to book a call with them so you can speak to them about it. You know you've got that time coming up, and you just mention the things that you noticed that weren't as effective as you'd like them to be.
So yeah, and I think this is great. And I think you've just busted the myth of not having time to train, because when we take the time to train and trust those folks that are less experienced in our organizations, we're really creating confidence in them, and we're building a firm that can get more done, and you're pushing down those repeatable processes. And you're right. When you go to McDonald's, wherever you go, you get the same Big Mac.
Yeah.
And people will say, well, things that we do in law firms are not repeatable. That's not true. There is some art to what we do, but there are a lot of repeatable processes that need to be standardized so we can get more efficient and push that work down to a lower level.
Yeah, brilliant. No, great to hear of your acknowledgement and having found the experience of that. Yeah, great. And so this was another example with accountability. Lana, so she came to me 3 years ago, and she was an accountant. She was running an accountancy, had 12 people in it, was completely burnt out, exhausted, tired. She would actually stay at her desk, wave goodbye to people going home. She would work all the way through the night, and then leave at like 5 or 6 a.m. to go home, have a shower, change her clothes, and then come back to work with everybody else. And everybody else thought that she'd come to work the same time as them and gone home and slept, but she hadn't. And she was doing that often just to manage all the clients, because she was the one that felt that she had to do a lot of the finishing off of the accountancy work and just wasn't delegating it away. And when we looked at it, it was because firstly, she wasn't making those clear requests, but then she wasn't holding anyone to account. She was really scared of making a request of anyone and saying, look, this needs to be done by this time. This isn't done. What's got in the way? What do you need from me? And then offering that support. She wasn't able to, because she wasn't holding them to account anyway. And in 9 months, she delegated away 90% of her workload from holding people consistently to account, not letting them get away with anything. And with that, she was able to offer the support that they each needed to learn all her processes, all the knowledge that she owned, and have them start to actually implement what she was doing instead of trying to keep it all to herself. And she sold her business for 7,000. I can't even say the number right now. I don't know why. 730,000 Canadian dollars. And yeah, it was fantastic. And all of this became possible. Look, the sale was finalized there at 4:42 p.m. yesterday. And again, this only became possible because she started to actually hold these people to account. So number 3, how acknowledging is high-level training and creates deep loyalty in your team members. So acknowledging, the most powerful training. This is really underrated, and I don't find many business owners understand this. But effective acknowledging includes telling someone exactly what they did well. So if you've got somebody called Sam in your firm and you say to them, Sam, I've noticed there was an email came in from one of our clients and they weren't pleased with some of the work we did. And then I understood that you got on the phone to them and you must have sorted it out, because they then emailed us telling us that the work was then completed. But not only that, that client has now contacted us and and initiated more work with us. They've asked us to do more work. Sam, I want you to get that the way you've taken care of that client makes us look great at this firm. It makes us, really be seen as trustworthy, reliable, and you're upholding our whole brand here and keeping our business thriving. I want you to get what an amazing team member you are. Now, if you do that and you say that to Sam, how's Sam going to feel? She's going to feel acknowledged. She's going to feel seen for her effort. And naturally, we're all really busy. So the last thing we forget to do is acknowledge people. Yet, it's the thing that you can do the quickest that elevates everyone's performance the fastest. So make it a habit to acknowledge. But it's even better when it's done in front of others. That example I gave there, imagine that you said that to Sam, but on a group call where you've got all 20 people in your firm all dialed in, and you acknowledge Sam in that way. What happens is everybody else realizes, that's what they want us to do. They want us to email the client back. They want us to pick the phone up to the client. They want us to make sure the client is happy and that we deliver the work as they would like us to. All of that gets communicated by you acknowledging somebody. And I've got one of my other clients, he's got a problem that he wants more of his team members coming into the office, and they're all working from home all the time and hardly coming in. But one of them came into work and did a full day's work. And so at the next weekly group call with everyone dialed in, he made the main acknowledgement of this individual for making an effort to come into the firm, into one of the offices, and said what a difference it made to everybody else in the office, how it made everybody feel like he was part of the team, that he was there for them. And then he couldn't believe it. But the next week, he had 4 members that don't usually go to actually into the office, start to come into the office and work from the office, and he never asked them. And so that really proved my point, which is that if you want to get people to do more of something in your firm, acknowledge those that are doing it well in front of those that you've also like to do it. And it has an amazing training effect. So it's also very good when it's being given before corrective instruction. So let's say you've got somebody's late on doing something and it's passed and it's finally resolved. You say to them, look, you're a great asset to this firm and you're a great team player, and you've got a fantastic future here if you keep putting the effort in. And I see the effort that you put in. And I wanted to offer something that we could work on to elevate your performance even further to get you that pay rise, to get you that promotion. So when you do that, what it does is it has somebody feel acknowledged and seen for their effort. Whereas if they already feel like they're in trouble and then you go straight into giving corrective instruction, it can make them shut down and not feel like speaking about the mistake they've made, and they might even hide and not admit it. But if you acknowledge them before you give that corrective instruction, they're much more open to listening to it and being cooperative with you. And then you can make a request of them to deliver that on time or whatever else it is.
I'm smiling on the inside because in the 80s and 90s, when I started in the accounting profession, the only time you heard from a partner was when something was messed up. You never heard any good things, and things have evolved over time, but we need to get better at this, giving praise and encouraging good behavior and holding folks accountable, but doing it in a positive way that reinforces that behavior that you want.
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely. I can tell you've got experience. And be given regularly. Exactly what we're saying here. I have some of my clients, they worry that if they give too many acknowledgements, the employee or the associate is just going to ask for a pay rise. Whereas actually, people are much more motivated on most occasions by praise and acknowledgement than they are by financial incentives. I'm not saying don't give the pay rises, but just giving the pay rises without the acknowledgement doesn't work. It really doesn't. And so here is Vanessa, who came to me. She was exhausted, tired. She was running, she owned 2 law firms, 2 other businesses. And in one of her key 2 law firms, the larger one, she was tired because her team members, they didn't seem bothered about their work. They were starting pieces of work, but then weren't finishing it off or completing it fully. And then we're expecting her to have to pick it up, finish it off before it's then being delivered to the clients. And when we got into it, what we saw was that she'd become so frustrated and annoyed with her team that she never acknowledged any of them for anything they did right. So then what we realized was that in their world, whatever they do, it's always wrong. They've never got it right. And it created this downward spiral where there just wasn't any energy in the office where she led her team. They worried her about her coming into work and her being angry and fed up with everything. So she took on starting to acknowledge people for the things they did well. And within only a few weeks, she started to notice that those that were a bit more reliable became much more reliable. But then also the others that were real slackers started to want to work harder to also get some of that praise and acknowledgement that she saw giving to the other members. And here you can see, so between in August and September of 2022, you can see here, this is pounds, this was revenue. I mean, it was only a small team, but it was 13,671 month, 16,421 the next month. And once you start to implement this, along with the clear request, the accountability and acknowledgement, you can see it all started to work. From October, 53,000, 73,000, 58, 43, 46, 62, 68. So you can see there's a great increase. Now, admittedly, before period I'm outlining here, she did have some months where she was hitting like 40, 50, 60,000, but that's because she was doing all the billing work. The difference now is not only has she got these revenue coming in, but that's without her doing any of the billable work at all, and her team member doing it instead of her. So it just shows how powerful this is, that once you start acknowledging your team members, and they will want more of that acknowledgement and they'll feel valued. And so with that reward and that feeling of feeling valued, it makes them just want to work harder for you. So there you go, 3 law firm owners' secrets to supercharge your profits whilst reducing your workload. So what I want to share with you here is, make sure you break free of the law technician's valley of doom, or you'll end up like that gentleman in his mid-50s, stuck, burnt out and exhausted, not knowing what to do next. And remember, the skill that enables a law firm owner to build a highly profitable firm whilst reducing their workload is profitable delegation. So take the time to invest in this for yourself. Go in and register in management and leadership, and you'll be amazed with those skills how much more profitable your business can be. So if you'd like to find out about this book, what I have here is the Law Firm Owners Club. So if you'd like this, you can take out your phone, you can scan this, and then you'll get taken to my website. You can enter your email there, first name, and you'll be receiving about every other week. You'll get an implementable tip, but you'll also get free tickets to events that I'm speaking at, half online, half in person. But you'll also get the opportunity to network, meet other law firm owners, and learn the strategies that they're implementing as well. So that's it from me. Thank you so much.
Well, let's talk about the myths that I think you did bust. The lack of having time to train. If we invest the time to train people that are less experienced than us, and we begin to trust, it will take some time, but as they get better, you'll be freed up to go do higher level things. And we have to get over the fact that nobody can do it the way we can do it. That's just not true. There is some art to what lawyers do, but a lot of it is process driven. And then the art can come in at the end. And then we all know the attorney or accountant that thinks they're very comfortable doing repeatable tasks that they've done for years. And it's just not a good use of their time. It's something that they need to get over that and get out of their comfort zone and go do those higher level things, bring in new business, push work down so that they can start to work on their business rather than in it. Let's go back to the slides real quick, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, here we go.
So we also at Anders, or Summit VCFO Services by Anders, do VCFO services for law firms. We do it for all kinds of businesses. I just happen to be involved with the niche that serves law firms. And what we do is provide an entire finance team for your firm on a fractional basis. So you get a virtual CFO, you get a senior accountant, you get technology people, and sometimes a junior accountant, depending on the level of services that you select. And you can really do it on a fractional basis, and using a subscription model, you can do it at a fraction of the cost. We're paid on a weekly basis. There's no long-term commitment. You can turn services on and off as we go, or you can terminate services if you happen to find the right internal finance team with a 30 days notice. And go one more slide. I've written a book as well. It's called Judicial Dollars and Cents. It's where we talk about the things that help you maximize profit and cash flow in a law firm. And let's face it, most attorneys did not go to their undergraduate degree for accounting or finance. They went to learn how to be lawyers, and it is a waste of their time. They have higher and better things that they can do with their time, serve clients, leverage their team, and grow their business, and then let the accounting and finance team come in and point out the areas of concern that they should be focused on. We and any finance team should help you look at key metrics in your firm, and we focus on cash, production, financials, and your pipeline. And by doing these things and focusing on a dashboard of key KPIs, you can see that things are going well in 3 areas, and we need to focus on our cash position. I had a recent law firm where the 2 partners hadn't taken a draw in 6 months, and they were so busy trying to figure out why they didn't have any cash, they weren't charging any time, nor was their team. So pretty quickly, we were able to identify that no one was hitting their charge hour expectation. And by pointing that out, it took about 60 days for effort to turn into cash, but they began in 2 months to start taking draws again. And the point is, sometimes when you have a problem and you're just trying to figure it out and you're down in the weeds, you can't figure it out without a second set of eyes pointing you in the direction of where the problem actually is. So if you scan that QR code, you can get a free copy of our book. Dan, advance it one more, please. We also have another a book available, Dynamic Forecasting, and this is key to everything that we do. We want to be able to give you a roadmap of where you're going. And if you think about it, when our grandfather took people on a vacation, the night before he did it, he pulled out a 10-year-old atlas, he made some notes, and the next day he packed everyone in the station wagon and away he went, and he could only react to what happened in front of him. If there was an accident, a bad accident to close the highway, he was stuck. He had to figure out his own workaround. And then our parents had a little bit better data. They had AAA triptychs. They knew that outside of Atlanta, Georgia, there was construction, and the triptychs gave them a workaround. Today, we have apps like Waze and Google Maps, which gets instantaneous data points from thousands of sources. And that's what forecasting in any business and a law firm can be. If we focus on the levers and the metrics that drive your profit and cash flow, and you have a set of goals that is attainable with the resources we have, we can pay attention to that on a daily and weekly basis to make adjustments and pull levers so that we can ensure that you get to where you want to go. One more slide, Dan. Also, here's a QR code to subscribe to our newsletter, and we do have a couple of questions in the chat. Any tips, Dan, in dealing with clients that say, I want you in the room?
You in the room, as in, I want you to do.
They don't want the junior person working for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have my own thoughts on this, but I'll let you go first.
Yeah, and it's natural. That happens. You know, your client's been with you for years. They built this relationship with you. They don't want anyone else to do the work. So the way to do it is to say to your client, we're now able to deliver a better service to you than we've ever given to you before because the other team members that we've got here. But what I need is to be able to have you experience this service is let me have one of my members dial in with our calls with me. And then what you do is you organize a Zoom call. So you would have a scheduling link that client needs to use whenever they want to speak to you and schedule it in. And you make sure that you leave spacings in your schedule so that client can always get hold of you within the next 48 hours for a 15-minute call. But then you've got the chance to have this other junior or this other team member dial in with a call with you. And then what happens is if you make sure that that other team member is there with you for every call with that client going forward, bit by bit, they start to get used to their smile. They start to get used to their points of view, their thoughts. And then what you say to this junior, this middleweight is, what do you think? What do you think we're missing here? What else could we do? And then as they chime in and they give their points, you say, that's a good idea. Great. Yeah, I didn't think of that. man, I'm pleased I got you here. I'll tell you, you know this stuff way better than I do. And then bit by bit, what happens is the relationship starts to build between that other employee you've got with your client. And then at some point you say to your client, I can't make the next call, but don't worry, Jack's got it all covered, as you know, and I'll be there for the next call. And then when that client finds out that you're not available anywhere near as Jack is, and Jack answers his phone, is on time, knows his stuff, has proven it, it's there, they get over it. And then they're just used to this other guy then using you for the work instead.
I completely agree, and that's how we do it as well. We include the other team members in all the meetings, all the calls, and eventually the client has confidence in that younger team
That's
member,
it.
and they quit calling me, and they call
Yeah.
the younger team member. And that's how we train people up and build the organization as it should be built. Rather
Yeah.
than, and I've seen transitions that haven't gone very well, where it's all of a sudden, hey, I'm on vacation, here's Susie. Well, they've never talked to Susie. They don't know Susie. So you have to include those
Yeah.
younger team members in all of the communications with the clients so that they get comfortable with them. And eventually they cut you out. And that's how you know Susie has matured to be the service provider that you expect.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, good question.
Hey, go back to sharing the slides real quick.
Yeah, sure. Let me go here.
We may be at the end of the slides.
Yeah.
I do want to remind people that we will share these slides. So the QR codes, if you didn't capture them as we went along, will come out. If you want, send us an email and we'll get those slides out to you. And I really appreciate everyone's time today. And I look forward to speaking with some of you. We will share this as well on LinkedIn and on our other social channels, and it will be available on our YouTube channel as well. Dan, thank you so much today. It's been an enlightening conversation.
Yeah, brilliant. No, fantastic. And if any of you want to find out more or know more about me, just find me on LinkedIn. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.